Okay, people are still joining in. So I just wanted to welcome everybody, and hopefully you can see my screen. I'm sharing my screen. So if you cannot, please feel free to help me out and let me know if that's not the case. This is a kind of a first for me, and it's exciting. So anyhow, hi everybody, and my name is Liz Laporte. I'm the founder of Porte Education Advising. We help parents and students with the college application and college preparation process. We've been doing webinars for the past few months, and this time I'd like to present some information to you to help you kind of navigate through this huge sort of summer program landscape. There's so many options, so many choices. So I'd like to help you kind of figure out how to go through that process, how to decide what's best for you or your student, and hopefully you'll get some ideas about how to plan. So feel free to use the Q&A function. Uh, Actually, also go ahead and email me, text me. I'm happy to follow up with questions, give you some more detailed information about the summer programs you may be interested in. And if you need any guidance sort of throughout the process, I'm happy to work with you and your student. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so our first slide is, will summer programs be different next year? So last year, as we all know, it was quite a different summer landscape. Things closed down, programs were offline. And so the good news is that this year there's a lot more programs online, and they've improved their delivery. The experience of last year has really helped organizations and clubs and whatnot to really figure out how to deliver their online services in a much more engaging way. That being said, several programs I've come across are trying to do their best to become sort of in-person experiences. Of course, that's all up in the air. So keep an open mind, keep flexible, and look broadly. It would be my suggestion. But on the other side of things, if you experience the summer last year and you're thinking about the college application and how last summer was affected, it's an interesting situation because students and families really had to use their resources. They had to sort of broaden their creativity, figure out how to do things that were interesting to the student online. And so it was both a challenge as well as actually a wonderful opportunity for students to really kind of figure out the problem of not having so many things at their disposal. So, okay. So anyway, that's great. I'm hoping everybody can hear me, and just looking at my controls. So, okay. So, and let's see, I've got a little bit of, the share screen looks a bit cut off. Not sure if this is how everyone is looking at it. So I'm hoping the screen share is good for everybody. Thank you, Melissa, for coming on in and letting me know. I've got several screens up, so it's good. It's a good to know what's going on and how things are for you all. So please keep the feedback coming. Okay, so why are summer programs important? The obvious answer is that it's a long time, about 10 weeks, one of the longest, I think, in maybe on the globe, the summer break for students. So this is the perfect time, for students to enjoy and deepen and explore subjects, whether they're academic or extracurricular. It's a great opportunity to really, get some teeth into an activity. From the admission standpoint, uh, counselors are super curious about what students are doing in their free time. It's a real significant, I would say, indication of what students really love to do, and what they're doing and what they're choosing to do. So free time, 10 weeks, what's going on? It's a good indication for the counselors, for students' application. uh, Summer is this long period of time. So I like to look at it sort of in a balanced way. I don't want any of my students to go kind of full bore into maybe an academic class if they're not interested. Some students really need the downtime from the screens that they've been enduring all year. So, it's a good idea when you're planning to kind of take into account what is your student, what are they able to endure in terms of screens? What do they want to do? What can give them some sort of relaxing downtime, and really have a balanced, pleasant, but productive summer? And if there are any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A. If things don't look right, I'm happy to know that as well. Okay, so how do you start? How do you know what to do over the summer? I mean, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of programs. I should know, I do lots of research. There are so many. There's kind of the pay to play versions, there's the competitive, more sort of filtered programs where students have to really, they have to do an essay, their transcripts are required, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's volunteer opportunities, both digitally now and in person, limited as it is. So how does a parent go about kind of planning and figuring out where to land in the summer, summer season? So there are four areas really that colleges are focusing on when they're looking at applications. So this is a really good place to start. The GPA, the grade point average, is probably the number one. 80% or so, you could say, that's the weight of that GPA for the college application. The GPA, by the time they're applying, it's 3 years in some cases for the UCs. It's sophomore year, junior year, and of course they will also look at the senior year grades. But that's a very big indication of the eligibility of the student for college work. And colleges really want students to enjoy and thrive where they are. It's not a punitive kind of situation. They really want students to be happy. So the first thing they're looking for is the GPA. Are students able to do the work? Can they thrive in that academic environment? So the second thing they're looking at is kind of in tandem with the GPA is advanced AP courses or honors courses. Is the student pushing himself into those courses? How well are they doing there? Are they taking the risk to kind of push themselves, challenge themselves, and really do, advanced work? So that's the second one. Excuse me. And if you have any questions, good, please bring those forth. Okay. So thirdly, they're looking at test scores. Now I know you're probably wondering, well, test scores last year was all over the place. There was a test optional. UCs did not require them, did not ask for them. So what's going on with the testing landscape? I'm finding through my research that most schools, especially sort of the top, more selective schools, are welcoming test scores. They're asking for students to provide that metric so they can assess that student. Whether that's a good idea or not can be debated, but right now I'm recommending all of my students to prepare for, important, always to prepare for these tests, and then to do as well as they can. The good news is that, and this just came out recently, is that the subject tests, SAT subject tests, are no longer offered. Neither is the SAT essay. So a lot of my students are, yay, we don't have to do those, which is good news for them, and I think that's great. But on the other hand, that means that the GPA, the transcript, will probably be a little bit more important because that other factor is now missing. So advanced courses, good grades, and good test scores, just the regular SAT one, ACT, those are probably going to take a little bit more weight. So that's kind of important to mention. But tests over the summer, taking tests and preparing for tests over the summer is a perfect time to do that. Okay, and then lastly, they're looking at the extracurriculars. And the way that I look at these is kind of like a sort of like a web, maybe is maybe a good analogy. Are the extracurricular activities something that resonates with the students' academic interests, or personal goals for college? If they know what their major is, does that sort of support what they're planning to do in college? So the extracurriculars are really a big gray area, and it's a fantastic opportunity. This is really what this webinar is about. It's a fantastic opportunity for students to really make a difference during the summer. Okay, any questions? Feel free to use the Q&A. And again, if there's a screen sharing issue or something that's happening, please feel free to let me know. I've got like 3 things going on here, so that would be great. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so how do you decide, again, what to do in the summer? There's a million things out there. Which direction should you go? Volunteering, academic, fun, cultural, humanities? Like, what is it that you might feel is most productive and also genuinely interesting to your student? So ask yourself, what is most important? And then after you do sort of a self-assessment. So here's, and this is a little bit of a longer slide here. So when you're looking at the full profile, whether it's the GPA, advanced classes, testing, or extracurriculars, let's take the first thing first. So does your student, or do you need a kind of a GPA boost? Right? Maybe you have a 3.0, and you'd really like to get kind of a big boost during the summer. So, and so remember, the UC system, all the 9 of them, some are more competitive or more popular, I should say, than others. But the ones that you really want to be eligible for, of course, would be the top ones. You want those doors to stay wide open. So the top and the most selective are UC Berkeley, UCLA, San Diego also. And the average, of course, that's not the top, but the average, not the bottom either, the average GPA for those schools is about a 3.7, 3.75. Okay, so if you are in that range, that's great, and stay there as long as you can. Keep going on those academics, take those advanced courses. But if you find that your GPA is a little bit lower and you'd like a boost, here are a couple of things that you can do. Community colleges. We are so lucky in California. We have tons of community colleges. They're excellent. And so if you are, a rising junior or a rising senior, or, a pretty academic student and you're in the younger ages, consider taking a community college course. They may be, they may not be challenging. It all depends on the course, of course. But the good news is that those grades will be included and folded into your high school transcript. That is a way to kind of get ahead. You can even take courses that are the A through G UC requirements and free up some time to take some other kinds of classes during your regular school year. So take a look at that community college. You know, DVC is a great place. Everything's online now. In some ways, it's even easier to take courses anywhere in the world practically. But take a look at a good community college. Take a look at the courses that are being offered for high school students. There's usually a website specifically dedicated to high schoolers. And browse around and see what you're interested in. The registration may be a little bit cumbersome. It's not the most user-friendly interface, perhaps, but it's worth going forward. Engage your counselor at school. She or he will know how to do that. And in some cases, you need to get their sign off for you to do that. So that's a really great opportunity, and free, if not tiny little bit of registration perhaps, but really worthwhile. The second place to look, and this is really interesting, the UC system has a program called UC Scout. And these are online courses, all of them, exclusively online. And they really, and each class satisfies the A through G requirements for the UCs. And if you're not familiar with the A through G, what those mean is A, I think, is English, B is math. I mean, they just go through all the subjects and how many years a student needs to take classes. So those are very important requirements in order to be able to enroll or be eligible for the UCs. UC Scout has a number of levels. Some have more cost than others, depending on the level, but they do include levels that actually fold in or include the grade in the high school transcript. Summer classes begin June 1st. And so it's a really good idea to kind of start that research, look around, see what's available. And by the way, I think I want to emphasize something right here, but one sec. Speaking of dates, I've been actually starting this process with my students, November, December. Let's start looking at what's available. Some of the program applications are due, next week, early February. Of course, these are the most maybe selective. They may include or require the test scores, an essay, transcripts. They have a lot of sort of obstacles, so that students who are genuinely interested in these programs, will have to do those. But the time to plan for the summer is really now. So you keep those doors open. You have as many options in front of you as possible. Don't wait until May. Don't wait until April. A lot of the other programs are due sort of March. So really, I really encourage and urge you to make the time to take a look at what's out there and when the applications are. And again, if you have questions about certain topics or certain interest areas, feel free to send me an email, give me a shout over text or phone call. I'm happy to kind of do that research for you to follow up on certain programs if you'd like. I'm happy to do that. So community colleges, UC Scout, and then timing is sort of the essence right now. Okay, any questions so far? Okay. So again, we're still on this, ask yourself what's most important. doing your self-assessment to see where you want to land in the summer, how you want to divvy up your time or your students' time. Um, so maybe you haven't had the opportunity to take any advanced classes. Maybe you're still an underclassman, but you're interested in sort of challenging yourself or taking more, APs or honors. There's three places that I can suggest off the top of my head. So kind of, there are others, of course, but these are some good ones to follow up on. And one is called the Academic Talent Development Program, ATDP. D is in dog, P is in program. That's the Academic Talent Development Program, and that's based on UC Berkeley. Of course, it has been in person, but now everything is online. And they have courses that, all the courses almost satisfy that A through G requirement again. And then they offer also AP or AP oriented classes. And this would be a great place to increase your sort of your challenge. And it's not exactly included in your high school transcript, but the applications all ask, what classes have you taken outside of the high school setting, or that kind of requirement. So ATDP is a great way to go look it up. Things, I think they're opening just about now, if not in a few days. They tend to fill up pretty quickly. So check it out. I hope it's helpful. UC Scout again has AP classes. And I have to note here that it may be an AP class, of course. The AP test itself is really up to the student. It's a little bit tricky to take an AP course and then take the AP test in the year after in May, but you are getting credit for the AP class itself, and that's fantastic. And that again for UC Scout, that goes on to your high school transcript, and that's going to have an impact. Another place to look is pretty interesting. There's a lot of online high schools in the country. Kids who are homeschooled, or their school itself does not offer any AP classes. So online high schools, there's one that's pretty well known called K-12. It's free, I believe, or it's very nominal the cost. So you can certainly check that out. It's online high schools K-12 for some advanced courses. Some of them are sort of asynchronous. You can do it on your own time. It really depends on the program. So any questions or comments? I'm happy to take a look at those. Okay, so again, we're talking about the third element in the kind of the categories for the Common App or the private school applications or the UC applications, and that is testing. So there's been a lot of change this last year. But if you look at the selective schools, the top tier private schools, the testing is still going to be a factor. And so I'm recommending my students to prepare for the tests as best they can. Some of them, are preparing for both SAT or ACT. The best way to go about that, in my mind, is to take a practice section or test, see which one you feel better about, and then make that decision, or even take both of them. Some students take both. I don't think it's necessary, but it's up to the student. A good way to go would be, right now, you could just register for the March test. I know there's been lots of cancellations, but I would go ahead and register. I would take the test, even if you're a sophomore, just to see where you are, just to see, how you did in that testing environment. And then assess yourself after the test. Oh, looks like, I have lots of math to review, or I need some grammar help here. So really you're doing a diagnostic. And then after that, register with a test prep company or a tutor, or I also urge my students to do some sort of self work with Khan Academy. Khan Academy, as you may know, I'm sure students know about it, has partnered with College Board. And the College Board is the organization that provides the SAT test. So Khan Academy has some wonderful resources, lots and lots of practice tests. They just have a lot to offer, and it's all free. So that's a really good way to get familiar with the test. And I would never really go into a test environment cold. I would, know what the test is like, know how long it takes. All those things will set you more at ease once you are in that real testing environment. Okay, so I've got a question. Thank you. It's nice to have some questions. So you do not have to share any of your scores from either the ACT or the SAT, especially as a 10th grader. I would take I would take the test. Actually, I would take it no more than 2, 3 times. The last test I would take would be in the fall of your of your of your of your let's see, of your senior year, and that those tests will be included, or you will be able to send those tests to the schools in time for their application to be read. The last testing date for the UCs, well, that's a moot point now for the UCs, but the last date really for the test is December, although some private schools will accept the January test dates. So I would take it 3 times, no more than that, and then I would choose the ones that you would send to the colleges. Some colleges will, I believe it's called, I've forgotten out the tip of my tongue, where you can choose the scores that you super score. That's right, where you can choose the scores that you would like to present. I'd like this quantitative test score, this verbal test score, and I just want to show those tests. So that's an interesting kind of factor when you're looking at colleges and sort of the testing dynamic. How do colleges think about unshared test scores? I you know they don't get the scores, and they won't know what those are. So just send the scores that you're comfortable with, right? And the other thing I wanted to mention about the testing is, lots of students, and I can totally understand this. A lot of students have kind of test anxiety. They don't do well under a testing situation, even if they've taken several practice tests, or they've taken the test several times. That's just not how they present their potential. So of course the UCs now are not accepting test scores, but there's a group of colleges called they're sort of an organization called fairtest.org. And these are schools. There's several of them, and that number is growing, by the way. Several schools are not requiring the tests, and they publicize themselves as, the test does not affect the admission decision. So those are, and they're excellent schools. Their focus is sort of less on the, pardon me, on the sort of traditional academics, scores, grades, that kind of metric. They're more interested in students who have sort of maybe a different, or a different learning style, or have a potential in ways that are not measured by tests. And they're fantastic schools. So you can go to fairtest.org and take a look at those schools. By the way, another resource for those kinds of schools that are a little bit different, maybe they're under the radar, is a website called Colleges That Change Lives, and I think the URL is CT CTCL Colleges That Change Lives.org, and they're also excellent schools. The focus there is more on maybe hands-on or more personalized attention. The support of the student may be more, more funded or more of a value of that school. So fairtest.org and Colleges That Change Lives, and those are certainly a wonderful option. I've got a couple of other questions. This is great. It's helpful. This is from Christopher. I'm happy to see you with us. What are your thoughts about how much more competitive the applicants will be due to all the seniors from 2021 that took a GPA, a gap year, or deferred for those 2022 seniors? So, so let's see. What are your thoughts about how much more competitive? So as people might know, lots of students. I'm not sure what the statistic is off the top of my head, but some students elected last year to take a gap year, right? Because, or this coming fall or this fall, and so they're coming back. It's an excellent question. Students with gap year experiences are very distinctive. They have either done a year abroad. I myself had a gap year back before it was called a gap year. I was an exchange student to a foreign country. Changed my life in a lot of ways. So those gap years are distinctive, unusual, maturing. So within that perspective, I don't know if it's going to be a huge, you know, like a bump in that application wave. But what I would do in light of that is to focus on the things that we've already mentioned: the GPA, your test scores, which you have more control over, and then also the extracurriculars. So yeah, I would continue with the normal way to go forward with your profile. And then some students might even be considering themselves taking a gap year. What I did in that vein is I graduated from high school. I went to Akalani's, graduated from high school, and then I was really interested in cultures and different cultures, different languages. I had spent some time in Germany when my father had a sabbatical, and so yeah, I graduated and I already had set up my own, my next college years. Took a deferral and then had that year abroad. Came back to United States and then went to school. And so and it was it was priceless experience, and I still draw upon going away, living with a country, living with another family, going to school, in a foreign country, learning a language, learning a culture, etc. So if any of you are thinking about that, students are pretty competitive in terms of what they get out of a gap year. Again, I would be happy to help you think about that, to research that if it's something you'd like to pursue. Okay, so we're going to move on to extracurriculars, and this is probably going to be a little bit longer. Let's see if yeah, let's keep on that slide there. Okay, so extracurriculars, this is the last, and in a way you have more control over this than almost anything. It's sort of this gray area, and you can really do what you want. So it's an exciting portion of the application. So with my younger students, rising, either they're rising freshmen or rising sophomores, this is the time to explore. and discover what you do and what you do not want. That's just as important. So these first 2 years, students should really engage in, not as much as they possibly can, but they should feel good about trying out new things, joining clubs at school, or engaging with online communities that they're not familiar with, and to see what kinds of things spark them. Um, so I'm going to mention a couple of organizations that you might be interested in learning more about. So for students who they want to know more about a major, or they're interested in an academic subject matter but they're not sure, or they're questioning kind of that area. Coursera it's a massive online MOOC. I can't remember what it stands for at the top of my head, but Coursera is as a platform where the top schools are contributing classes by professors themselves. So MIT is in there, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, UPenn, these Ivies, right? So many more. And so it's COURSERA. And that's a really, really wonderful, not an easy necessarily to navigate, but it's worth going into. Courses can be, 3 weeks. You can They're free for the most part, unless you are interested in having a certificate, which can go on to your kind of a resume kind of thing. There's no skin off your teeth to take them. There's no grade. You can sit in and do the assignments. You can sort of audit them, and you may discover, this is great. I can't get enough of this. Marine biology is wonderful, or that's really not for me. I prefer to do something else. And you can sort of jump around and explore. So it's a perfect way to do that. There's not a lot of cost invested. If it can be literally free. So that's a great place to start. If your student is like, I'm not sure which academics I like, let's take a look. The other one I've mentioned already, which is the Academic Talent Development Program. And because it's located at UC, it's pretty popular for East Bay and San Francisco folks, mainly East Bay. They have a program for really rising ninth graders through 12th grade. They have something called Explorations, so you can kind of look that up. And this is sort of kind of like half day programs where they have SAT prep, for example, mobile app programming. Journalism was offered last year. They have some single day options, art workshops, CPA training even, and there was one about personal finance. So that can give students kind of some ideas about what they like and what they may want to pursue later in college. Let's go to the next one. So if you're a student, or if you are interested in science, math, bio, computers, robots. I mean, it's a pretty wide array in the STEM area. But something called Cosmos, COSMOS, it stands for California State Summer School for Math and Science, Cosmos. And this is a wonderful opportunity. It's mainly for younger students, my 11th and rising seniors. They might be able to get something out of it, but it's more like a kind of a camp plus research. And there are all kinds of what they're called clusters, is sort of the classes, what they're calling classes. And they are located, at least physically, it used to be UC Irvine, Santa Cruz, UC Davis, and UC San Diego. And so check those out. And I think the applications are just now opening up. You're asking, like, well, what about volunteering? Some students just love helping others. That's really what they're all about. And so volunteering is a great opportunity for them. And I have to say that lots of parents will ask me, "Oh my goodness, my student doesn't have any volunteering, and community service is really kind of not their thing. Are we in trouble?" Not at all. You know, you want your student to do things that they enjoy, genuinely enjoy, and not really to do things just for, you know, the college application. So if I have a student who just, you know, really comes to life helping others, that's fantastic, and they should be doing, you know, volunteering at whatever level they can throughout their time in high school. Now that you know the pandemic is with us, there's a lot of digital opportunities for volunteering. You can look at something called Zooniverse, Zooniverse, Zooniverse. Online, it's a huge online research community, and you can volunteer to help out, you know, these worldwide research projects. The Smithsonian has also a very well developed kind of digital volunteer menu. Even, you know, if you're a computer person, you know, Mozilla Firefox, they have one, you know, they need help with whatever they're doing, coding, etc. There's another one that I thought was pretty interesting called Be My Eyes, which is a free mobile app with one main goal, which is to make the world more accessible for blind and low vision people. The app connects blind and low vision folks with sighted volunteers to help them out. So, I mean, there are hundreds of opportunities. So if, you know, if your student is pretty much locked down on his or her computer or cell phone, there are ways to kind of engage with the outer world. So work is also something that students have been asking about, and it's great to do, especially, you know, they're given responsibilities and they have to show up. And you know, several of my students have been working in like restaurants, waitressing, barista kinds of things, which is fine, and gives them a sense of you know, responsibility mainly. So independent projects, literally, I got to say this a little bit more with a little more emphasis. Literally, the college counselors are looking at everything that students are doing during the pandemic. They really want to know, and so for them, and I had students this last cycle who spent an inordinate amount of time taking care of family members, going shopping, grocery shopping for, you know, the family, or picking up brothers and sisters, or you know, helping the grandmother who, you know, wasn't feeling well. So everything that you're doing outside of the four the four walls, or now the computer, in an academic sense, those things are fair game for your activity section on the UC and the Common App. And those are valid. Those are completely valid. They do not, I got to repeat, they do not have to be a plan, or I'm sorry, a program that is pre-made. What are you spending time with? Are you reading all day long? You know, what are you doing? Are you baking for your friends who, you know, who can't do that? Or, you know, what is it that you're doing? So how you go about figuring that out is to be maybe intentional about it. But on the other hand, if you just need to do things for a family, that is valid, totally valid as well, especially during this time. Okay, any questions can that okay, so now let's see, let's go to rising juniors and seniors. So I'm going to mention maybe 6 or 7 or 8 organizations. And again, if your student is not, you know, interested in these things, certainly, you know, shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to follow up. So for rising juniors and seniors, they are pretty much, to be competitive with, you know, the sort of the top tier, they're really expected to take on some challenge, right? And you know, there are a number of research organizations, uh, especially for, excuse me, for students who are interested in STEM. Basically, STEM is research. So there are several really good programs. We're so close to, Silicon Valley, and we have so many resources right at our fingertips with Stanford and the UCs and Berkeley. So I'd like to mention a few of those. And these are for kids who are really, really motivated to have kind of an academic, in maybe a more of an intensive academic summer. So Stanford, just if you just look up Stanford pre-college or Stanford youth programs, there's maybe 6 or 7 or 8 of them. They have courses in the humanities and in the STEM system, and they also have in particular, they have a lot of, or sort of well-developed pre-med courses, all the way from, listening to lectures, that's about it in that program, to, and this would be before the pandemic, of course, to actually doing kind of hands-on work in labs and forensics and things like that. But check them out. They're reputable, they're well-run, and some of them are fairly competitive. I believe the next one is for kids who are interested in business. I think it's called MIT X Launch. That could be, I could have misread that. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's a program for students who are interested in, being an entrepreneur. For kids who are pretty well versed in the humanities, they're interested in writing, they're interested in sort of the big ideas in the world. This is a extremely competitive, but something you should look at, which is called TASP, TASP, Telluride Association Summer Program. That's Telluride. A couple of others are these are research experiences, which is this one is the Clark Scholars Program. It's a one-on-one research with faculty, and so more and more students are, their interests are becoming more divergent maybe from others, so they're getting their own ideas about what they'd like to major in. So really having an opportunity to work with somebody on their own ideas is really where students are landing more and more. For students who are interested in government or leadership, a good one would be the Notre Dame Leadership Seminars. You can take a look at that. And so some more STEM ones. These days, the STEM has been, over the past few years, it's been kind of booming, the programs for STEM. MIT has a program called Research Science Institute, RSI. And another one, which is for math, called Program in Mathematics for Young Scientists. So the acronym is PROMIS, PROMYS. Again, Stanford, we call them out. So Stanford University Mathematics Camp, SUMAC, and you should check out the University of California at Santa Barbara research mentorship program for pre-college. So that would be UCSB RMP. I think that would be the acronym. So those are just a few. There's so many, but those are some reputable programs. We know how well they have done, and we certainly recommend those to students. So we're kind of coming to the end of the hour. Let me see if I have some other slides. So how soon should we start planning for the summer? As I mentioned before, time is really of the essence. Not for everything, especially for younger students. They have a little bit more time, to kind of register and apply. But if students really want to kind of push themselves, they're a little bit older and they really want those, fairly selective programs. They're ready for that kind of, intensive summer, especially if it's sort of on an academic level. I would definitely start today or soon. And again, I'm happy to help you if need be. to kind of do that research for you. I start with my students in November, December, sort of starting to, broach the subject with them. Hey, summer's coming up. Let's kind of figure out what it is you're interested in. Let's look at your profile holistically and see what might needs to be amended or looked at. And so the ones that are, again, the ones that are most selective, they're due, a lot of them are due. I actually saw one the other day, was already been, already due date was, I think, January, I don't know, it was 21st or something like that. Uh, just know some programs have early priority deadlines and then a second deadline, later on. So good idea to get them in sooner than later. Okay, and then coming on to the end here. So how do you balance your priorities? It really depends on your family and, the student that you have. But my suggestion to my students is to really be intentional with time. It's not necessarily easy to do, but if you're really interested in having 4 hours a day just to yourself, put it down on the calendar, and then maybe 3 hours is the class that you're taking, or vice versa. Try to make a plan. Try to stick to it. Use any sort of time monitoring apps. There's some, like Rescue Time, Toggle is another one. Google Calendar has notifications galore. So those are also ways that kind of keeping you on track and allowing you to have, a good, balanced, fun, and productive summer. Another great tool is to have sort of an accountability buddy, whether it's your parents or a friend saying, hey, how's that going? Did you do that 2 hours of, or 1 hour of SAT prep? How's it going? And another simple tool is making checklists. So a couple of others, and then we'll finish up. So is volunteering better than doing other activities? Again, I've had students who love to be with people. Their strength is sort of human development and just sharing themselves with others. Volunteering is great. If the volunteering can be within the same sort of discipline as what they may major in, that's pretty important. So I wouldn't just go out and build houses if you're interested in computer science, or I would try to stay within that vein of something that you're interested in. For instance, one of my students was interested in sort of issues of equality and diversity. She spent a summer with the Amigos de las Americas, and as somebody who believes she's majoring in sociology, that's a great fit. And she's able to write about her experience, and it was a very meaningful time for her. Okay, a couple more questions. So is a competitive program better than any others? And my response to that would be, is it a good fit? Is your student, really, loves that kind of drive and, that sort of competitive edge type of experience? Then great. It really depends on the student. So I would not pressure your student, and I certainly don't with the students I work with, if they're interested and they're driven and they've got that kind of energy, certainly try it. But there's no shame in the other programs. Is it something that's meaningful to your student? That's the key. And does it dovetail, with their general interests? That's important. Again, I wouldn't just do random volunteering just because it's something that people say should happen. So no, it's not necessarily, better. It really depends on the student and where the goals of that student, where they'd like to land. Okay, and then the last slide is, so how do you know what a good fit is for your student? So I guess, what are your goals, right? And this goes back to the kind of the four kind of aspects of the college application. Is your goal to get a 3.8 or 3.9, kind of above that UC sort of average? If it is, let's try some academic class. Let's really, get that GPA boosted up there. What is it that you're drawn to? If it's something to do with making and engineering, making things with your hands, is there an engineering, class or project that you could, try that out? I wouldn't let the word engineering scare you off. There's so many, aspects to it. And then if you're not sure, try some things out, right? There are several programs where you can explore either by lecture or EPIC, epic.org, I believe, is an engineering program, engineering possibilities in college. And it's a good program for kids who are sort of figuring out where perhaps they land in the engineering world. Yeah, and then how can you use your skills at the things you're interested in? So I know students who may be really interested in computer science, but they're also drawn to something like helping elderly people. So there could be a program for you where you go in and you revamp their website, or you help out with something to do with IT. It's not competitive, but you're getting to use your skills for a practical purpose, which is really, really, really great. So that's it. The hour is almost up. I've got 2 more minutes, and then I have to run to another meeting. But again, this is an exciting time for students. This is the extracurriculars. The summertime is sort of an open book. It's a wonderful opportunity, and if I can help out, to sort of put you in the right direction or offer ideas, please let me know. I'm more than happy to send you some information and help you out. There's a lot going on, and I'm happy to assist. So thank you again. Are there any questions? Are there some more questions here? So there's Jan. Thank you for coming. And yeah, it was great to see all of you. Didn't get a chance. Amal is there, and Jan, Lisa, Melissa, Naina, how are you? Rebecca, great to see you. Couple of Steves and Tatiana. So I look forward to meeting you. And again, thanks everybody for coming. Let me know, by email if this was helpful, or how it was. Any feedback would be great. And it was enjoyable hour to spend with you all. Again, thanks for coming, and we'll be having more webinars, and just keep your eyes open for the newsletter that I'm sending. Okay, bye everybody. Have a great rest of the week.